Okay, and by the way, thank you so much for joining with me in the late evening. I know 8 o'clock. Many of you would be very tired particularly in the evening after working hard for your company and then coming and joining. Pretty much, thank you so much for taking this webinar or learning session very seriously. Okay, and clap for yourself and clap for others joining today. Okay, do that. Ethically do that. So you got a clap icon. Clap for yourself and clap for it. This is going to be a 16 minutes, very interesting learning. I'll keep it very simple, very easy. The methodology that I asked my SDET team members who cracked a large opportunities, they use the same technique. I'm going to teach you the same secrets, no difference. Okay, so brilliant. Okay, right. And second thing, there are a few disclaimer I wanted to take it. I'm going to solve problems. Here is what you should understand, right? Some solution which I teach you today, right, may have techniques that has not been taught. Okay, for example, I may be talking about list or set today. I may be teaching you list or set today. You don't know list and set yet, okay, but don't panic. Just take notes and make sure when you go back to this weekend learning, it will be taught to you. Is that super clear to all of you? If it is clear, thumbs up. So I'm going to teach you some techniques, right? I'm not teaching Java today. I'm teaching you techniques, right? And remember, when you understand the techniques, it's important, but I may be using some coding, right, which is not still taught to you. So remember to write down, and when you go to this weekend learning, you will get everything right. Is that super clear to all of you, right? So don't panic and say, Babu, don't press the button and say, hey, Babu, I did not learn this set. I did not understand list. What is this you're talking about? Don't panic. So the focus should be on the technique, not on the programming. The technique is super important, right? So it doesn't matter which car you are driving. The technique of driving the car is super important for you to crack it. Okay, I'm going to teach you 8 techniques, but I'm going to give you 2 bonus techniques. So totally 10 step-by-step process to crack a Java problem. Okay, and especially cracking a tough Java problems also can be done through the same technique. Okay, if you are super ready, type I'm ready so that I watch you. I want to see how many of you are super ready. Type super ready. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right? A lot of people are very enthusiastic. Very good. Keep up the spirit of learning. The next 1 hour is going to be super powerful. Okay. So whatever I'm teaching you for the next 1 hour is predominantly talking more from the interview perspective, not necessarily from a work perspective. Let's be clear. Okay, I'm not teaching you a super techniques from the work perspective. I'm teaching a technique completely from the interview perspective. Okay, now very much it has a 10-step process. I'll quickly run through the 10-step process. The template I wrote, I'll be sending this template to you so you don't have to write notes. You'll get a recording. I'll also send you the template offline. Just follow it. Okay. So first thing you have to know is there are 10 steps. So there are steps like, did I understand the problem? That what I should do? Then what is the test data? Do I know how to solve it? If I don't know how to solve it, then what I should do next? So if I don't know how to solve it, what is the ask? If I know multiple ways to solve it, what is the one I have to choose first? So where do I have to focus myself? And then before I code, what I should do then? Right, then start writing in the editor. In today's world, it is going to be more online interviews. So how to use which editor you should use and how do you do that? Then how do you test against different data? And what if something fails, how do you really work on it? There is going to be 10 interesting steps one by one. Don't worry about anything. You don't have to take a snapshot. I'll share you the entire template. I'll share you the recording. Just listen carefully and keep writing notes on your notepad and pen. Is that super clear? Is that super clear? We set every context right here. So you are listening to me completely. Your brain is absolutely with me throughout the session. Okay. I think some of you are constrained. You're not typing in clear, right? please come into the forum. Just enjoy. You say, enna Babu vande type panna solrare. I am getting bored. I don't want to type. A lot of people have that mindset. Get out of the mindset. When you want to learn, make sure just do what I say. Okay? I would have solved some of the toughest problem in the world. I did solve problems including Google, Amazon, Facebook, and I've done so much before I am here. Okay? Just follow me. Is that a clear message? If some of you have not typed clear, better do that. Just stay with this. Stay with this. Enjoy the learning. Okay? Enjoy the learning. Be like a kid. Don't try to experiment. சொல்றதெல்லாம் work ஆகுமா? நிச்சயமா நம்மளால முடியுமா? I don't have a Java background. How do you think it is possible? Drop all those negatives. Just stay with me. Enjoy the learning. Okay. So I'm going to give also example for each one of them. Okay. Let's take a problem statement. Say somebody is telling, okay, okay, the question is something like this. Find the duplicate characters of the string. Assume this is what? A simple standard problem in a service company first round. Can you find all the duplicate characters of a given string? Okay. Now assume this is the problem statement. So the first thing you have to understand is don't ever jump. This is a bonus tip. Write down the bonus tip. Never ever jump to solve the problem. Hey, I know I solved this problem before. I have seen this. I have done this. Don't jump to solve the problem. Is that clear to all of you? Right? Type clear. Don't ever jump to. You may know the solution. You know multiple solutions, but don't ever jump to solve the problem. Just start. Take the problem. Okay? Now ask yourself the first question. Did I understand the problem? Sometimes you get a question something like this, right? Find the super prime number. We all know what is a prime number, right? We all, how many of you know what is super prime? Anybody know what is super prime? If you don't know, type I don't know. That's okay. If you don't know, type I don't know. So there is a concept in math called super prime. So you may find a question which is difficult to understand. So a lot of people, you know what they do? When they don't know the problem, they think it is a prime, start solving it. Bad idea, right? So what you have to do, once you understand, ask yourself, hey, Babu, do I understand the problem? Yes, I think yes. Okay, if you do not understand the problem, ask the person to provide more detail with an example. Be humble enough to ask it. Hey, I don't understand what do you mean by super prime. Okay, can you please give me an example and explain me what is it? So I'm going to give it a try. Is that okay for you? Ask them. Never, ever hesitate to ask. A lot of people in the interview, they think the interviewer is the super god, right? Please understand, he is a human. He may be most likely a 2 batch earlier in Testleaf who is in the interview panel. Okay, as simple as it is. Okay, never ever he's going to be super good. Is my voice clear? If my voice is clear, type voice clear. Right. I believe some of them are going to keep telling me that voice is broken, internet broken, but I'm going to keep checking with you then and there. Okay. So those who have problem in voice breaking, go join back or find a better internet, join back. Okay. I'm going to keep moving. Most of them said, my crew said all good. So what is the learning? If you got a problem statement, never jump to solve the problem. That's a super tip, right? If I know what is a problem statement, then make sure you understood the problem. If you don't understand the problem, don't ever bother. Ask the interviewer, can you give me what is it and give me an example for it? Okay, brilliant. Okay, somebody said, okay, I understand, right? I understand what is the problem. So you all understand what is the duplicate character of a string, right? So in this case, first, let me take an example, something like the string str equal to, let's say, Amazon Development Center. So assume that this is the problem, right? You got Amazon Development Center. Does this particular string has a duplicate characters? Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes. Right. Is the question super clear? Is the question super clear? Type super clear, right? If you all understand. Okay. Okay, here is the mistake you all do when you say super clear. It is not clear. It is not clear. I'll tell you what is not clear. So he said, find the duplicate characters. Now the question is, do you have to ask the question, do you want to find all the duplicate characters, or do you want to find most repeating character, or do you wanted me to basically find the first character? Find the first. What you really need, because sometimes the communication is broken. So what is the expectation? Make it ditto. So how do you make sure it is super clear? Ask them to write an example. Ask them to write, this is your input, right? Ask them, are you expecting me to find, so the output should print A, right? And then N, right? These are all duplicates, right? And then we got, what else is duplicate? Yeah, E is duplicate. What else? T is duplicate. N, I already got it covered. Anything else? So duplicate? Yeah, O is duplicate, right? So ask him, are you expecting me to give you all the duplicate characters to me, right? M is also duplicate, yeah? So ask him, is that what you are expecting to me? Let him say yes or no. Is that super clear to all of you? The problem here is, especially when you're doing online interviews, there is a great difference between the interviewer and being interviewed. You misunderstand most of the questions and spend a lot of time. Last week, I was attending Swiggy interview, and I had 3 rounds of interviews. I went through each round. Every time I follow the same technique what I'm teaching. Whenever the interviewer tell me a question, I said, okay, I just want to ensure I understand with you same page. So I'm going to take an example. I'm giving an input, I'm giving an output. Is that okay for you? So please confirm, are you in the same page as I am? Okay. Now, if your understanding is this and he said yes and you're all set, you say how to say strike off, you're done. So the question is yes, you have to find all the duplicate characters only once. Is that super clear for all of you? Is that message clear? Now, a lot of people thinking problem solving starts with writing code. Never, never. Drop that image. Even in the interviews at Google and Microsoft, people ask you, are you having the clarity how to solve a problem, not the programming language to solve the problem? And a lot of us, generally, when you look at the problem, we jump and write Java code. People wanted you to be a thinker. Now think through this. If this question is asked in Capgemini, and if you clear the interview, are you going to go back at work 8 hours solving such problems? Yes or no? Yes or yes? No or no? What is the right answer? Right? You are not going to solve this problem. Then why do they ask such question? They ask such question because they want to understand, are you able to work independently yourself? So which is meaning, are you able to think the problem solving? Is that making sense? But is making sense, type yes. Right. So now, please understand, step 1 is very, very simple. Understand the question very, very well and make sure you do it. Now let's talk about few more things in the template. Now, the first thing from the template is, what is the input? What is the input I should do? Now, you all know this is the problem statement, right? So I'll drop this now. Now, what is the input? What is the input? Input is a string, correct? What is the input? Input is a string. Sometimes when you go to the next level of interviews, right? For the probably if you want to crack interviews with the service company at this level is good. When you go to the product companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and maybe Netflix and PayPal and maybe ThoughtWorks and Freshworks and signed up companies, we also tell you what would be the approximate size of the string. If the string size is going to be super big, then you have to think of not even using string. You should use string buffer or string builder. Because string is what? You all know. You would have learned it in week number 1. String is what? In Java, string is what? You would have heard a keyword. Yeah, string is a class, but that is a keyword. Somebody would have told you what is a string is all about. String, did you hear the word? Some word starts with IM, something like that. Okay, looks like not many of you heard it, right? Yeah, it is a sequence of character, but in Java, string is immutable. Immutable. Okay, so if you are hearing this word for the very first time, write down on your notepad and go back and spend little time to understand what is immutable. Okay, and the meaning of immutable is, let's keep it simple. The meaning of immutable is every time you use the same string, right, it creates a separate memory. For example, let's say string mentor. So first week, Hari was the mentor. And second week, the same thing, I'm going to make mentor equal to, and it become Shiva become the mentor. Now today, I am becoming the mentor. So now the question is, the variable is same, the values are different. So what Java will do is, it will create a separate memory for every single reference. So which means there will be 3 memory and it will be right. Would you like to have, according to you, what is correct? Should I have 1 memory or 3 memory? What is correct to you? Should I have 3 memory, 1 memory? What is that correct? What is correct according to you? What is correct? According to you, what do you like to have? If you are storing the phone number, assume that you are storing a phone number, right, of someone. You keep updating it. Would you want 3 entries or 1 entry? Your friend number keep changing. So would you like to have 1 reference or 3 references? 1 reference. Because the mentor code keep updated. Now, you cannot access Hari anymore. You cannot access Shiba anymore. Because those are all updated. Gone. These are all called dead memory. You cannot use them anymore. These are all dead. But still, Java holds them in their dead memory. That's what talking about garbage collection. Let's not go there. So the point of learning is, because string is immutable, right? And the challenge here is, whenever you use string several times, it creates so much of memory and becomes panicking. Your space is occupied. So hence, whenever you are dealing with a string, consciously know that string is immutable. Hence, you should use string smartly. That is the alternate solution, is to use string builder or string buffer classes. There are additional classes from Java. You can use string builder or string buffer. Note this, go back and learn it offline or ask your mentor on the weekdays more information about this. Is that clear for all of you? Is that clear for all of you? So I gave you super tip number 2. Super tip number 2, whenever you are using string, make sure, be cautious about using string effectively. Right. Okay. Okay, all right. So we understood the input is going to be string. So what is the output? So you should also ask the interviewer. So a lot of people think, find the duplicate characters. Now the question is, hey, duplicate characters, how should I return back to you? So the output should be, they may say, hey, I want character array. So send me as a character array. Or somebody said, I don't need you to return, just print the duplicates alone, just print. Now the problem is the understanding. Last week, the same interview, right? One of my SDET from the upcoming program, he attended this week, last week, the same time also. And in the same interview, he came and told me, Babu, I initially did print sysout statement. The interviewer was asking me, how will you return? Then I have to create an array and then send it back. So now the question is, you should not let your interview ask you later, rather ask a friend, hey, do you want me to return or do you want me to print? If you want to return, do you want me to print as a string or do you want me to send as a character array? What do you really want? For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to just print it for the moment. I'm going to make an assumption. The interviewer says just print it. Okay, now, are we good so far? Are we good so far? We are keep checking every time. Are we good so far? I know we just made one single step for the last 15 minutes. Are we good? Pretty good. Okay, the next question here is, do I have constraints to solve the problem? It's a little complex question, but don't worry about it. I'll not give you a lot of pain. So if you go to the next level of bigger level of interviews, probably going for 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs salaries, they ask you, do you have a constraints? What does that meaning? Sometimes they say, okay, you have to solve the problem without using additional string or without converting into a character. So you might get a problem, something like this, do not use character array. So you have to solve the problem without using character array. Or sometimes you will get a problem, something like this. Do not use inbuilt methods. You're not supposed to use inbuilt methods, which means you cannot convert them to character array. So you have to ask the interviewer, hey, do you want me to solve by any constraint? Okay, so you have to explicitly ask them. Some of you may think, Baba, it is hard for me to solve. Should I really ask them? It depends on your comfort. Probably first two interviews, you might find it difficult. But when you ask the right question to the interviewer, hey, should I use inbuilt method or should I not use the inbuilt method? The interviewer may have a greater impression on you because you are asking right questions. Right questions. Now the interviewer said, doesn't matter, do it, no constraint, go ahead and solve as you know. Sometimes the interviewer comes and says, no, you should use only set. You're not supposed to use anything other than set. You should use only Java set. So assume that you don't know how to solve them in set. Then you can openly tell the interviewer at the same time, hey, sorry, I don't know how to solve this in set. Can I use other technique to solve it? Most likely 95% of the interviewer is going to say okay, right? So the super tip number 3, if you don't know, you just tell I don't know. Is that message very clear? If they are telling you solve this using this technique and you don't know the technique, you just openly tell them, hey, sorry, I don't know the technique, but I know a different technique. Can I do this? Is that message super clear to all of you? So don't put pressure on yourself and let go the problem. Rather, you give a best attempt. Okay? These are all simple tips, but nobody teaches. And these are all the powerful tips which makes a huge difference in the game. Okay, now the next question here is, do I have all the information? You have to ask yourself. Sometimes you may not. It may be confusing. Sometimes you may not. So you better ask them, right? So I have all information. I'm good. The next one is I go and ask my interviewer how big your test data set will be. Again, these two questions are for complex problem solvers, but all people who are just starting with Java, don't worry about these two questions. You can ignore these two questions. However, I'm leaving this here with a comment right here. So you can remember this, you don't have to apply in your technique, but if you're growing up, if you're doing really well, you can use these techniques which will make a different ball game, right? So are we good? So we are done with the first question. Did I understand the problem? I said yes, yes or yes, no or no. So make it very clear and you're done. So you might take 30 seconds, 60 seconds, even 1 minute, doesn't matter, but you are going in the right direction. So the people who jump and solve the problem never solve the problem according to their expectation. So slow down, consume the problem, ask right question, make sure you understand it, then go forward. Is that making sense to all of you? Yes or yes, no or no? Brilliant. Brilliant. Let's go to the second one. Okay. I know we are taking a lot of time, but I don't mind, right? Whatever I want to teach you, I want to give you a depth to the learning. Are you guys okay with that? If you could not complete today, we'll continue tomorrow too. Okay, now we are moving to the second one. Second one. Again, I will repeat. All of you, you don't have to copy paste. You don't have to take a photo. Everything will be shared to you. Write notes because the super tips are not given to you. Super tips are given orally. So you have to write notes. Okay. Now the second thing is how to have the test data set. Now the question is, as a tester, right? Most of you come as a manual tester, correct? If you're a manual tester, type MT. I want to know how many manual testers here. Good going. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people are getting in sync with me, correct? There are few people just watching, watching, eating, cricket match, following, all that stuff. Forget it. This is going to be your day. So enjoy learning. So, okay, a lot of people from manual testing. So please understand, even if you're not from manual testing, you have to follow this particular scenario. Even I am a developer most of my time in lifetime, but still without test data, I cannot test myself. I think even a developer is a tester. Do you agree the developer? The developer should be a good tester as well. How many of you agree to this, right? So absolutely, if you don't really, that is why the problem here is these developers don't test well and they dump it on us. They keep coming with a buggy code, correct? Right, okay. Now with that said, now coming to a very clear path. So as we have to design a test data. Now for example, I personally believe at least 3 data set. A positive, edge and negative. For example, I'll give an example here. So I'm going to go and start with the data. Now this data could be the one which I say positive data, right? The positive data for me could be something like this. My negative data can be simple, right? So it can be something like this, right? My negative data could be something like this, right? String str equal to double quotes, an empty string, right? You can have an empty string, or you can also have a string which is defined as a null. These can be the negative cases. Do you agree? An empty string or a string which is null. So what I should do in this case? So I might have to just say nothing, leave it blank, correct? Or you should ask the interviewer here, hey, in this case, when the string is empty string or if it is a null, should I really give you what? The interviewer may say throw an exception. So throw an exception, invalid input, right? That is how you also do it, right? If you remember in testing, when you're testing, if you don't give for example, username field and click on the submit button, what message you get? Invalid data, isn't it? Correct? So in such case, when you are also writing code, should you not handle that? So that is where you should also think through like a developer, build a positive data, build a negative data, ask interviewer what you want me to reply. Now the intent here is you are just not solving the code, you are thinking how to solve the code. So you are very thorough. The interviewer will be really happy with your approach. Okay, brilliant. There can be edge cases also. You have to have at least one edge case. For example, the one of the edge case I could think through as, for example, how about like only A's. This is the edge case. Your output should be something like this, right? How many A's? Should I return one A or all the 3 A's? Because these are all duplicates. So you ask the interviewer now, hey, as per my understanding, I'm supposed to return only one because all of them are duplicates. Should I return only one A or should I return multiple A's? What do you think should I return? Is that making sense to all of you? Yes? Yes, right? Is that clear? Now think we have not solved the problem, but we are going very thorough in understanding the problem statement. So make sure the second thing is building test data set, minimum 3 data set, positive, edge, negative. Ensure after writing it, validate with the interviewer if the data set is fine and does set the expectation. Okay, that's step number 2. I think step number 2 is easy for most of you because you're all great testing thinkers. Are we ready? Are we ready? Can we go to the third step? Third step. Brilliant, brilliant, very good. Okay, now we go to the third step. Okay, stay focused. This is a very, very important step. Okay, ask yourself, okay, I know what is that I have to do. I also know what is the test data. Sometimes there is a constraint, but you don't know how to solve it. What is the edge case? Okay, edge cases could be a positive or a negative case, which doesn't happen always. Which doesn't happen always. You have only 4 A's. You have to get the duplicate. How many duplicate right now you have? Sometimes you can think these are all duplicates, right? Except the first A, these are all duplicates, correct? You can also think like this. Makes sense? Yes. You can think like this also. Now you can also think like this. Okay, just A is repeating 3 times. Why should I really repeat it multiple times? Right? So ask the interviewer, hey, should I return once or thrice? Because the logic will differ depends on what you wanted to write. Is that making sense to all of you? Are we all good? Can we go to the third one? Brilliant. Let's go to the third problem statement. Okay, now third problem statement is ask yourself this question. Okay, ask yourself this question. Hey, do I know how to solve it? Right. During the interview, I personally recommend all of you, right? If you are taking time to think, it is absolutely okay because most of the interview is going to happen with the video on. But you know, most of the interviewers are panicked, right? Even I saw even during my interview, I was sharing just the Eclipse window. So I did not share the entire window like what I did. So initially what I did is I did share only the Eclipse window. So for example, like what you see in my case, for example, let me go and try to look at where is my Eclipse. Eclipse is not. Okay, let me see through the Eclipse. So now I'm sharing only the Eclipse. So you all can see only my Eclipse, not rest of my screen. Is that clear for all of you? Is that clear for all of you? Right. But when the interviewer got panic and I was typing the problem a little faster, the interviewer was panic, understanding whether this guy really knows the problem or he's copying, pasting from somewhere else. The interviewer all of a sudden said, hey, can you stop sharing and share the entire screen? I said, absolutely okay. I have no problem. Right. But remember, so that is why if you are taking some time to think during the interview, online interviews, please tell the interviewer, hey, can I get 30 seconds to think and react? I'm thinking on this problem. I'm using my notepad. Just show the notepad because unfortunately, most of the Indian mindset are corrupt. No, they all think like themselves. This guy will cheat. This guy will copy. Correct? These guys are like that. So what you intend to do is better just make it very clear. Hey, I just want to show you the screen and I'm sharing the full screen to you. And I also get this my notepad. Look at my notepad. I'm solving on my notepad. I'm going to take you 30 seconds or 60 seconds before I come back and type it. Is that okay to you? Make it very, very, very clear. Did you guys understood what I said? Yes. I personally looked at so many online interviews, my folks, and probably 150 plus. That is the reason I'm telling you all this interesting, useful information. Is it finding very useful? Yes. Right. I don't see your face. You have to react with me. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the confirmation. Okay, now, so immediately don't jump to solve. You generally, when you look at the mind because you solved so many problems or you heard the problem solution somewhere, generally immediately our brain will start looking the problem from one direction. But don't jump. Don't jump. Ask yourself, yeah, I solved the problem duplicate by removing, duplicate by using the for loop. Do I know different ways to solve it? Ask yourself. If I know different ways to solve it, then great. Type a note. This is one way. I think there is other approach. Let me write down. Write down if you know more than one technique. Today, in today's world, most of the interviewers expect you to solve more than by one technique, right? More than one technique. One technique is not enough. More than one technique, right? But personally, I would recommend start with one simplest technique. See, a lot of people do this mistake. This is super tip number 5. Super tip number 4 is something I told you very clearly. Tell the interviewer, honestly, I'm trying to type in a notepad. Show them the notepad and tell them I'm trying. I'm going to take you 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Please allow me some time. Is that okay for you? So that is a kind of crystal communication is super tip number 4. Super tip number 5 is basically always start solving the problem by the simplest solution. Even if you know multiple solutions, start always with the simplest solution. Is that clear? Is that clear? But I understand a lot of people thinking, Babu, ஒரு சொல்யூஷனே கஷ்டம். நீங்க multiple solutionலாம் சொல்றீங்க. How is it possible? Right? I think I could see the problem coming up from a lot of people, right? But don't worry. Don't worry. I think the starting stage is going to be like that, right? I think when I start swimming, first time when you just jump into the swimming pool, start swimming, you don't know how to swim, correct? Correct. You somehow manage to come across. But over the time, when you know different style, you do different butterfly, you do a regular swim, you do all the kind of different techniques. Is that not true? Right? So remember, it just comes with the practice. Okay? So you got long way to go. Just 2 weeks now, 6 more weeks of learning, lot of practice. Then I'm sure all of you will find more than one technique over the time. Are we good? Good or good? And also for all of you to remember, don't panic. You don't have to solve 300 problems. Unless you are looking for going to companies like joining Microsoft. Even Microsoft is, you don't need 300 to be honest, right? Or you want to Google, Facebook, or maybe probably you want to go to Netflix and so on. You might have to solve 300 problems. But for all the companies like Capgemini, Hexaware, Sintel, Infosys, SCL, right, Hexaware, Aspect Systems, all these kind of services company, I'll give a tip. You don't have to solve more than 20-25 problems. Is that a big relief? Is that a big relief? Oh, if I solve 25 problems, I'm good, all good. So that's a honest feedback to you, right? If you solve 25 problems, you're all good. But don't try to memorize the solution. It never works, but solve it right. So even if you get 26th problem, like a delta coronavirus versus delta plus coronavirus, your body will still sustain, correct? Right? So even if you solve these 20 problems, you would be able to solve the 21st problem better. Okay, are we good? Are we good? Thank you for 3 of you who smiled, laughed, right? Happily learning. I think a lot of people very stiff, right? That's absolutely okay. Okay, so those who do not know how to solve the problem, but Baba, I don't know how to solve this problem. Duplicate characters, my mind is not thinking. I do not know how to solve the problem. Then I would recommend a simple tip. Ask yourself, can I break the problem into simple problem? So instead of finding, now for example, instead of finding all the duplicate characters, right? All the duplicate characters, can I find just the A? Like this, take this example, just find one A. Is that a simplest solution I can solve? Solve it first, then expand it to the bigger problem. Is that making sense? You don't have to solve all the problems at home, right? So all the married people know this, right? If you're trying to solve all the problems of your spouse, you will never do it in your entire life, right? I understand a lot of people could not really react being at home, correct? Right. So take a smaller problem, sub-problem, start solving one problem at a time. It is absolutely okay. It's okay. And start solving, and you can do that over the time. Now assume that a lot of people might come back and tell me, okay, the 4th step is a super good step. Very, very good step. Now, a lot of people come and say, Babu, I practice a lot. I did a lot of hard work, Babu. I went to the interview asked me the same silly question which I prepared. I went very blank. My mind stopped thinking. I was crying inside me. I feel very alone, correct? How many of you like it? How many of you like it? Sometimes your brain stops thinking, you froze, and you find it very, very hard. How many of you like that? Right. It's absolutely okay. No shame here, right? I also went through the same problem, right? Absolutely same problem. You know what? That's not the end of the life. That's not the end of an opportunity. That's not the end of a career. Okay? It's just a beginning. So I'll tell you a secret. lot of people do not tell you this, but I continue to coach everybody who comes to my classes. One thing, no shame here. Absolutely be shameless. Absolutely be shameless. Ask, hey, I don't know how to solve it. Can you please help me by giving me a hint? Right? Can you give me a hint? Right? Absolutely be shameless. Okay? The super tip number 6, be shameless to ask. Be shameless to ask. Don't panic. Just tell the interviewer, hey, I thought through this, but I don't know how to solve it. Can I get a hint, please? Absolutely ask for a hint if you do not know how to solve it. Right? I understand a lot of people thinking, அப்படின்னா நம்ம இப்போ 25 கொஸ்டினுக்கும் நம்ம அப்படிதான் ஹிண்ட் தான் கேட்கணும் போல அப்படின்னு தோணலாம். Right? I'm sorry for looking at it in a local language. So let me translate. Some of you might think, up at 25 question also, should I ask only asking for hint? Don't worry, right? Interviewer will stop you somewhere, right? So, but it is absolutely okay to ask, right? Okay. Are we going good? Or are you guys learning so far? And you guys came with the expectation Babu is going to help me to solve Java problem, tearing it apart. But I think I made it simple. But you guys have to understand, if you don't know how to do this, you never know how to cook. Right? So all the people, how many of you cook here? How many of you go to the kitchen cook? So type, I'm a cook. I do. That can be. I lived in Canada and US for about 7 years, and I was alone. I was living myself and right as a bachelor. So I used to cook all time, right, at kitchen. You don't have a choice. I lived in the coldest places in the world, so I do cook. So I'm sure there are a lot of good cooks. Okay, brilliant. Right, all the boys, I think I'm very happy for you. I think better you cook for the rest of your life, right? So it will be good for you and your family too. Okay, coming back to the context. Right, now, when you go to kitchen, what is super important? Knowing basically, at least if you have to know how to chop your vegetables, right? What utensils to use to cook, isn't it? How to turn on your, basically, at least you should know how to turn on your stove, correct? So the basics is super important. I think a lot of people, even if you wanted to cook in an agile way, but your stove cannot turn on with a full flame. Do you all agree? You have to enjoy cooking. You have to love your cooking. If you want the greatest food in your life, better you have to enjoy cooking. All the women will agree with me. Unless you enjoy cooking, you would never get a great food, correct? So please understand, interview is also the same process. Don't panic, press a panic button. Go through the step, line by line, go through enjoy the process. Just don't panic. Okay, now here is a super tip. When you ask for a hint, some interviewers I've seen, at least 20% of the interviewers would say, no, I will not give you a hint. They say, I'll not give a hint. 80% of your interviewers will give a hint. Those 20% of the people who does not give a hint, remember one thing for sure, they do not know how to solve the problem. That's why they are not giving a hint. So which means, however you solve it, that's the best solution. Just don't worry. You're doing very well. Right? So that is my huge experience. If somebody said, I will not give a hint, which very truly saying, you don't know how to solve it, you better solve it in whatever technique, and that will be the best solution. Right? It may sound like a joke, but that's the truth. Now coming to the 80% of the people who say give a hint, there are two types of categories. There is a guy who wanted to really help you. There is a kind of guy who want to give you an input but don't want to help you. There are two kind of cases. But after COVID and taking all this stuff, people going on a video interview, I see people are very sweet. Most of them willing to help you. Now, if you are in an interview panel, would you help somebody? Yes, sir, yes, no, or no. What do you think you will do? Right. And I want to tell you one of the heart attack here, one of the heart attacking thing here, right? So keep your heartbeat ready. Okay. Even if you crack best opportunity, 60 to 70% of the time you work in manual testing. Okay? And sometimes even 100% of the time they take you as an automation engineer, put you in manual testing for a higher salary. So you might find a heart attack, but don't panic. That is okay, right? So which means interview is just another process to go through this. Okay, right? So the only thing is people who want a jump take any job, right? Who want a career, make sure you negotiate with the HR, take the right automation job. That's a point. We will help you with that process. We'll give you all the inputs. We'll give you suggestions as we progress down the line. So don't worry about it. So if somebody is willing to help you and you got a hint, you still don't know how to solve it, be open to the interviewer and tell them, I'm extremely sorry. I couldn't really think through and solve this problem, but I appreciate you giving me an opportunity of hint. But I am here. Here is a super tip number 7. Okay, are we ready for the super tip number 7? One of the best tip I can give you. One of the best tip I can give you. One of the best tip ever I can give you. Now tell the interviewer, I'm extremely sorry I couldn't really solve this problem. But however, I'm writing a note and I'm going to go back later today and solve this problem for my own learning. But I'll give you a guarantee. We can move on to the next question where I'll give my best attempt. Okay. So what is that you're trying to message to the interviewer? You're telling two information to the interviewer. Number one, you're telling, I'm going to go back and solve the problem and make sure I learn out of it. Clear. Number one, is that message very, very clear? Is that message very, very, very clear? Point number two, which you have to very clearly message is the confidence in you. You should not drop. You should not say that I'm lost. Yeah, I lost the question. I'm not going to go through the interview. You just tell the interviewer, I'm going to go and work it out. However, I just believe in myself. Can we go to the next question? I'm going to give my best. Are you okay with that? Okay. Now think about it. Now you're giving a confidence back. You will give a best attempt to the next question. Right? Internally inside the mind, it will be breaking. Next question, tough answer. Right? Don't worry. But don't worry. Right? So the next question, unfortunately bad, don't worry about it. But at least you are giving a confidence back to the interviewer that you will make a clear attempt. Are we good? Good or good? Okay. Point number 5. Okay. By this time, now you know that whether you know how to solve it or you don't know how to solve it. If you know how to solve it, you might know one technique or you may know multiple techniques. If you know multiple technique, I told you one super tip, don't tell the interviewer all the solution up front. Tell the interviewer, I think I know different solution, but let me start with a simple solution. The name of the simple solution is called brute force technique. Okay, the name of the simple technique is called brute force technique. What is brute force? As you know the English word, this is a standard technique by which you are solving the problem. So tell the interviewer, I think I can solve this problem using a brute force. Very standard thinking way. For example, I'll give an idea for you to understand. Now the question here is, this is a question I want to do. So this is the input, right? Now, one of the solution I could think through is traverse through each element of the array, correct? This can be a technique, right? Traverse to, which means you do a for loop, keep going to every single element, right? And check if the same element exists. If it exists, print as duplicate. Is that making sense, all of you? So it is just called brute force technique. It's called brute force technique. What you're going to do? Take A, capital A, go to every single character and there is no A. So forget it. Next, M. Take each character and keep moving. You got a M here. You found the M. Duplicate, print M. Then go to A. Keep going, traveling. And then somewhere you found the A. No, there is no more A. So you're done. Right? Looks like, okay. Do we have, I think we should not have got a A. Okay, that is a question we missed to ask. Maybe we should have asked something right here. Should I consider case sensitive or case insensitive? If the interviewer says case insensitive, then this A is correct. If the interviewer says case sensitive, this A is not right. Is that making sense to all of you? Okay, brilliant. Very good. Thank you for the confirmation. So now you go and take each character, traverse one by one and confirm it. Now start with that. That's called brute force technique. In that technique, sometimes you might see, what if I choose 2 times, right? There can be, what if I get E multiple times? You see E is coming 4 times. So in such kind of cases, we have to add some more technique. But don't worry. Start with a very, very simple technique. Right? Whatever technique comes to your mind, simply. The other technique we can do is, which you will be learning upcoming week, is something called using set. What is all about set? Set is an interface. What is an interface? It's a design which will allow only unique values. No duplicates will be allowed. So what I can do is I can add each character into a set. Whenever I'm adding a same character again, the set will throw me a false, saying that, hey, I have this character already. So whenever you see the same character one more time, when set is returning false, so you can just go and print. So which means you traverse through each element and then add to the set. If set is sending false, then print as what? Duplicate. So you don't know what is set, how does it default? We'll teach you this weekend. You'll be learning that. So stay focused. This is called using a hash set algorithm or hash algorithm. So this is another technique to solve it. There can be another technique also. We can solve it using a map. Right? Using a map. We can look at how many occurrences. So you can do the same thing. You may not know the solution right now, but don't panic, as I told you. So now add to the map with occurrences. And if the count of occurrence is more than 1, print as duplicate. So this is another technique. So you saw a lot of different techniques. We have solved it. You may solve it even in more than 3 techniques. There may be sometimes 3 or 4 techniques. But the idea here is you may not know at this moment. You are just in week number 2. Maybe after this weekend, you might know other 2 techniques as well. But my input is very simple. The technique that you have to apply here is, so ask yourself, do I know the alternate solution? If I know, type down only the keyword. So I think I can solve this by brute force. I can solve it by hashing algorithm. I can also solve by map. So let me try with different techniques. Or you can just tell that I don't know multiple ways, just know the brute force. Let me solve it for you with a brute force. Keep it very, very simple. So, and the recommended process is always start with this. Even though you know a solution which is very, very good, never do that. Never do that. Now, I'll give a real-time example. I'll tell you also my personal experience in the interview. So I had an opportunity to get interviewed 2 years back with one of the organization product company in Chennai, right? So I went to the interview. I was thinking little over smart those days, and the interviewer asked me a question, I know 3 or 4 different techniques. I went on to go and tell the solution straight, the last solution, the most optimized solution. Unfortunately, the developer who is interviewing me do not know the solution. Now, for him, he don't understand my technique. I ran this different data. I proved this technique working, but the ego of the interviewer versus my ego clashed. He felt that I am good, better. He got a fear factor. Now this guy rejected me pretty much 2 years back. I had a huge learning out of the interview. I said, why did this guy rejected me though I solved it very quick within 3 minutes and explained him how did I solve it, but still why did he rejected me? I went on to my friend who also worked in the same organization, called him, why did he rejected me? What is the reason? And the interviewer returned, it seems in the feedback, the guy, right, did not follow thumb rules to solve it. So with that said, the problem here is common man like you and me wanted to go step by step. Don't jump directly to 10th step. You become a superman, right? Superman or superficious, they don't want people. They want a common man who can jump, yeah, particular phase by phase. So always you start very simple, right? Right? If to all the women right here, you make a great food after getting married. Assume that you recently got married. For a first week, you made a great food for your spouse. Absolutely great food for your spouse. Now that becomes the standard for your spouse, correct? Following 3 weeks later or 3 months later, you started making basic food like a idli or dosa. What would be the feedback from your spouse? What is the feedback you will get from your spouse? Even though the idli is very good. Okay? I believe all of you understood what is the question I'm asking, correct? Now the problem here is everybody mentally putting a baseline to your solution, expecting you to do better. But incrementally, if you do better, it becomes a interesting input, correct? You start with a very worst food, right? When my wife started cooking, she don't know cooking before she came down after married, right? So and I told her literally, and she knows because I was cooking for a little longer. She did not. And the first time when we went, the food was not very adjustable. And my style was different. My family style was different. It was not to the expectation. We exchanged words, right? But happily, good that I didn't get beatings. But fundamentally, what is true is, but I have to give a feedback. But after 2-3 weeks, she improved and she gave a lot of good outcome, right? So now that's exactly even the mentality of human goes on. So start with a simple baseline, beat it, again set a baseline, beat it, again set a baseline and beat it. So people look you as really, really good. Is it making sense? It's completely a mind game to play, right? So what is the super tip? Right, number 7. Super tip number 7, never ever solve the problem with the best optimized solution on first case. Start always with what type of algorithm? What you should start with? What you should start with? The simple brute force technique, which is very straightforward technique to solve. Okay, are we clear? Are we clear with this? Okay. So I'm going to stop right here considering I have to run to another meeting. So what I'll do is I'll continue tomorrow the same time, right? And between 8 to 9, the remaining 5 steps. Also, I'll give you a little more interesting inputs. So that should help you to really do it. So are you all happily had a great learning? Was it good learning? Yes or yes, no or no. Was it a good amount of learning? Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. So tomorrow I'll share you the entire content, including the recording tomorrow once we have both. So don't worry. but I would strongly recommend people to experiment what you learned, right? And I also want to give you my tip, right? So I want to give my life story so that somebody get inspired, right? So I started my school days in Tamil medium, right? My father and mother felt that I'm a good student, but I was not doing really well in my school days. Then I was very naughty. Then I wrote an exam. I was the first student or first batch student of the Navodaya Vidyalaya, which was not available in Tamil Nadu, right? So I was living in the border closer to Pondicherry, right? And I got the school called Navodaya Vidyalaya, which is basically in Karakal, pretty much a south side of the village, right? Right, I got the school admission. My father and mother said, okay, let me put him into the school, at least he become obedient. They put me into the residential school. And the good thing about the school is, right, no money to be invested, right? Zero money. I think if you are coming outside Tamil Nadu, you might heard about the school called Navodaya Vidyalaya. How many of you know Navodaya Vidyalaya? Quick. Yes or yes. Many of you may not know it, right? So I was a first batch student. I was a first batch student going into the school, right? And I had a very tough time in learning because the teaching was happening in English. I couldn't really understand anything that's being taught. I was finding very difficult to catch up. I start hating myself, right? I was not doing very well until seventh, eighth, but I was playing my games very well due to the playing games, participating in sports, right? Traveling across country for sports. People said, okay, we'll continue to pass him because he's good at sports. That's how I managed to live up to 9, 10. 10 score becomes horrible. I didn't get a great score. My father said, enough is enough, come out. Your brother has scored really well and he was ready to go to REC, right? He's supposed to go to REC, right? One of the famous engineering colleges in India, right? And interestingly, both my parents are teachers by nature, and it became a saying in Tamil, right? Right. So you guys know what I mean, right? So unfortunately, I become one of the that saying. I don't really do well, right, at schools. So unfortunately, on 11th and 12th are supposed to come out of the school and do it locally. But interestingly, the principal literally begged to my father and mother, said that he will do really well 11th and 12th. He's one of the sports guy. So we wanted him and we will ensure he score really well. And horribly, 11th and 12th also was not great. Somehow managed to get a decent 12th score and went out to write my entrance exam. Somehow managed to get into a college, right, in engineering. Those days we had only 36 engineering colleges. My father is unwilling to pay me for the college. So I went out to take my BSc Math for about 4 months. Then after the doctor seat went on, so we got a vacant college seats. Then I happened to get into my engineering college. That is when the life changed because I was living in the dormitory with the people who come predominantly from Chennai, very high scorers, very talented people, some of them currently leading as a vice president for some of the best companies in the world. So interestingly, these guys injected a lot of thought process. So when I started learning with them, one thing I found is they can learn in the first attempt. I happen to know this in my third year, second to third year in engineering. I only able to learn in the seventh attempt. Sometimes I don't understand the technique in the first attempt. So for which I have to learn it 7 times the same topic because I need to understand the basics right, then improve on it. Seventh time I get it better. So I understood the math behind my learning process. I started working on the technique. I went on to score from my third year to fourth year. My score rocketed and then able to get through it. After engineering, I went on to have a campus and then went on with a different career path, right? So I learned from that technique. Sometimes you have to be poor in learning. That's okay. But find a technique how to learn better. You got a recording. Watch the recording a couple of times. Write notes. Literally write notes. Understand. Don't try to mug up. Understand the deeper. Now today I'm part of the Selenium committer and I speak in conferences. I understand Selenium better than anybody else. I can be very proud of myself. I do a lot of things. I continue to develop code even in the age of 45. And I'm a guy who was not great at my school. Right? The difference is very, very simple. Even I go tonight when I go to sleep, I read a lot of articles at least a couple of times and make a notes. Okay. I told you not to sell anything. I told everything to inspire you, right? I am one of you. I'm not somebody who made a rocket thing here, right? And currently I manage about 15-member team, right? Currently I also as a QA director for one of the 150 companies, right? I also do a lot of things outside this, right? So to all of you, just one thing in life, we stay focused, right? Stay focused. I'm sure you will reach the destination. Just stay focused. Okay. All right. With that said, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for your time and all your kindness for staying so many people right here, which is a blessing, right? Never the mentors get so many people coming on a weekday listening to me. So brilliantly, thank you. Have a great night and sleep with a lot of happiness. I'm sure you will learn a lot and become the wonderful, successful people in life. Thank you so much. With that said, I'll drop today. See you tomorrow.